shots fired on this one. There are two teams that play in New York, and they both suck. Brian, we're talking about the Jets. You know, this is the AFC East week here at White Widow Sports. Talk to me about the Jets in 2024. They weren't very good, were they?
No, sir, they were not very good. 5-12, third in the East last year. I don't know. It doesn't seem like they could do anything right. You know, I'm not going to harp too much. Everybody knows I do not like Aaron Rodgers. And yes, I put a lot of blame on him. I don't care what kind of stats he had. I don't care. Yeah, he is a Hall of Fame quarterback. I give him that credit. But that was 4 years ago. Come on, bro. Times have changed. He's old. He needs to retire. Again, I'm not going to harp too much on that because he's not a Jet anymore. We've got Justin Fields, and I think that's going to be a lot better. But I still don't have them coming close, and I'll go ahead and spoil all the way to the end. I don't think they're going to win this, the East, and I almost think they're going to come in bottom again, so or right at the bottom. But we'll get into it. We'll talk about some of their stats and who left. I kind of spoiled one of them for you, but we'll see what they did.
I mean, not a very good offense last year, despite having some quality pieces. I mean, Aaron Rodgers came in at quarterback. I think he was an upgrade over the guys that they had in there before. But they only managed 310 yards per game in an offense that featured Aaron Rodgers, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, and eventually Devontae Adams. Just 24th overall was not what you'd expect to see. Defense, however, was very good. They were the third-ranked defense, giving up 314 yards per game. And I think that could be more of the same because as we get into some of the moves that they made this offseason and who they secured long-term, I think that we can expect this team to continue to be very good, especially under new head coach Aaron Glenn, coming over from that defensive coordinator position with the Detroit Lions. We know how good that defense was there. He's going to have some quality pieces to work with in the Jets. It's all going to come down to how much better this offense is. But you talk about departures. Two guys we just mentioned, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, represented a huge chunk of their offensive production last year. They're both out of here. They did lose some pieces on defense as well. Hassan Reddick, edge player, is now a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, unfortunately. Javon Kinlaw, Washington Commander. If you watched yesterday's video, you might have heard me mention that there seems to be a lot of players leaving the AFC East and going to the NFC East, specifically to go play for Washington. Javon Kinlaw on that defensive line is one of those. And then quarterback DJ Reed, you heard us talk about him in the Lions video. We're not going to go too far into that, but he is a very good player coming across the field from Sauce Gardner. I do think that's a little bit of a loss, but they did replace him. Brandon Stevens coming in, 3 years, $36 million. I love bringing in him. I think that somebody from Baltimore, he had some good seasons there. I think he's going to fit right into this defense. He's going to play across from Sauce Gardner. I don't know if he's going to be purely boundary, if he's going to play nickel. I don't know if that's really shaken out yet. I haven't paid too much attention to their alignment. We're still early on in the training camp and preseason process at the time of recording these videos. But be that as it may, I love what they did. Also bringing in Andre Sisco on a $10 million deal, coming in to take on one of those safety spots. Love what they did there and locking up this secondary. They signed Sauce Gardner to a 4-year, $120 million extension. This is going to be a hard team to move the ball on. We've talked about who we think the top defenses are going to be this year. You know, we talked specifically about the Ravens and how good they are. If you ask a Seahawks fan, they've got a top 3 defense. You know, Houston Texans, Denver Broncos. There are a lot of really good defenses in the league right now, and the Jets I expect to still be one of them. But the big name that we haven't brought up, you know, as far as this portion of the video goes, is Justin Fields. You talked about him at the top of the video. 2 years, $40 million. I think 30 of it was guaranteed. I expect him to be the starter this year and next year as well. This is going to be his true stage to cement himself as a starter in this league. Obviously, he was in Chicago. He had some rocky experiences there. A lot of people said that was going to be his last chance to be a starter. Then he gets a shot. Pittsburgh last year when Russell Wilson was hurt. He won some games in Pittsburgh. He played competitively. And that earned him this opportunity with the Jets. I think he's going to stick around the league, but if he does not play winning football this year, if he does not look like somebody that is a part of the contributory success of the team, but looks like the anchor of the team, I don't know. Justin Fields, this is your last chance, buddy. Obviously leaving Georgia, Going to Ohio State, having the year that he had there was a lot of sky-high expectations for Justin Fields, not only as an athlete, but as somebody who could progress as a passer. No longer having Devontae Adams, but locking up a college teammate of his. You remember it's been a few years, but Garrett Wilson was his top target at Ohio State that year that he played there. He gets 4 years, $130 million, $90 million guaranteed, number one receiver, locked in for the long term. The same can't be said for Justin Fields. He's got to go out hungry. He's got to play clean. He's got to play turnover-free football, and he's got to make the Jets a competitive team, or I don't think we see him in the NFL for much longer. But what do you think?
Well, I said it a few videos ago when we were talking about Pittsburgh. I like the kid. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he was on some Pittsburgh was not a questionable team. I think they could have left him in there and he would have been just fine. But they wanted Russell Wilson. That was obvious. But Chicago, I mean, we talked about it with Caleb Williams and how that just was not a good team. And I don't think it was in 2023 when he was there. If you can take the best quarterback and if you put him on a garbage team, he's not going to look good. So, you say that if he doesn't perform this year, I think obviously he signed a 2-year deal. He got $30 million up front. I think he's going to do pretty good. I think he's with a good team. He's with better coaching staff that fits his style. I think you're going to see him, the old Ohio State Justin Fields versus the Georgia Justin Fields. I think he's got the surrounding weapons. I kind of predicted it at the beginning of the video. I do think they're going to be in last place, but I do think they end up with a better record than what they had last year.
Yeah, I could see them being somewhere right around where they were last year. And maybe it's that lack of weapons. I mean, obviously, Garrett Wilson is one of the top young receivers in the league. I love that they locked him up. As far as the team standpoint, I think you keep your stars. You don't want somebody like a Garrett Wilson walking and going to another team, because even if he gets a better situation, if he gets a better quarterback, he's going to be uber productive. You want his contributions to be for your team. But who else do they have right now? I mean, the rest of the receiving room is just not inspiring, to say the least. And as we get into the draft, you'll see that they added a couple of weapons, but I think Justin Fields, Garrett Wilson, and Breece Hall are going to make up so much of this offensive identity that kind of spoiling the fantasy football component of this video, but it's almost like those guys have to be good or the Jets aren't going to be good. And it's going to be such a centralized offense between those guys that those are going to be the guys that you want for fantasy, purely because there's not a lot of other big names. It's not like last year where you had a Devontae Adams across from Garrett Wilson. They don't have that this year, and I think that could hurt this team. But as we get into the draft picks, their first round pick, they drafted 7th overall. If you remember back when we did our live stream during the draft, this was the guy I said they should take. This is the guy that made the most sense. Armand Membu, offensive tackle out of Missouri. Absolute freak. I mean, just an athletic freak, very physical. He can be very dominant in the run game. And with a backfield consisting of Justin Fields and Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, this is an offense that's going to want to run the ball. And Membu makes all of that so much easier for them. Love the pick and what it means for this offense. Mason Taylor, tight end at LSU. A lot of people knew who Colston Loveland was. A lot of people thought that it was going to be Tyler Warren coming out of Penn State that was going to be the most productive one. I'm telling you right now, don't be surprised if Mason Taylor doesn't have the best rookie year out of all of these, out of necessity. The Colts have other weapons. There are a lot of weapons in Chicago this year. We've talked about that, how good we think that offense is going to be. Colston Loveland might not even be the most productive tight end on that team this year, although I expect him to be moving forward. But Mason Taylor is going to be the tight end week one for this team. And I could see him being the number 2 target on this team as far as receiving options goes, right behind Garrett Wilson as early as this season. They did add another corner out of FSU, Azariah Thomas. I like that pick. A pick that I think that you'll like, wide receiver out of UGA, Arian Smith, coming out of 4th round. He's somebody uber athletic. If he could catch, if he could eliminate some of the mental mistakes, the opportunity is there. And that's kind of what I wanted to get to these picks for, is you look at a Mason Taylor and being able to step in day one, be that tight end one for this team, and you look at the other receivers and how uninspiring they are. What I wanted to ask you, being a UGA fan, knowing somebody like Arian Smith so well in the years that you spent watching him play football, what would you say to a Jets fan about the inclusion of Arian Smith to this wide receiver room, and how early do you think he could contribute to this team?
I think right off the bat, yeah, he did have some hands problems. I think they're going to get that out in preseason. We all know there's a huge jump from the NFL or from college to the NFL. Different coaching. I think they teach him how to catch instead of trying to catch with his body. If Fields can hit him in stride, there's not going to be a lot of hope for you because you ain't catching him. He is ridiculously fast. At one time, I know he was probably the fastest, if not the fastest person on the whole UGA team. So, like I said, you hit him in stride, he's gone if he can catch. And I think they will work on that. I think you'll see him a pretty good bit in these preseason games coming up. I think he'll get a lot of reps, probably not from Justin Fields, but definitely he'll get a lot of meaningful reps. And, I can see him contributing right off the bat. And if he does, watch out because, it takes, them from being like a 5-win team up to a 7 or 8-win team, quickly because he is that deep ball threat. I think he is a compliment to Wilson. He is going to be that second guy. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does. I know you, not being a Georgia fan, are probably not all that high on him, but I think he's not Julio Jones. Don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna say that. He's not gonna be that. Oh my goodness, we got the absolute stud in the 4th round. Or I'm sorry, was he 4th round? What round was he?
4th round, yeah, 8th pick in the 4th round.
Yeah. So I don't know that he's gonna be that guy, but he will have wow factors to him. And you're going to be like, yeah, we did steal. Yeah, we got a pick. So I want to see him do good. I like him. He does have a little bit of attitude problem every once in a while. But I think
coming from UGA, are you serious? That is such a disciplined football team.
Well, they've got their trials and tribulations just like any other team. I mean, I know a few Alabama players that it hasn't fared so well with either, but we're not here to talk about college football. We're here to talk about the Jets. So I think it's a good pickup. I think they're going to be pleasantly surprised. Like I said, they teach him how to catch. He's going to be a deadly, deadly weapon for them.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. Iron sharpens iron. You've heard that 100 times, if not more, in the world of football, and it's true. So having a Garrett Wilson to show him how to succeed at the pro level and be that model of consistency, I think that's going to be a good thing for the rest of this team, is to see how Garrett Wilson operates, because he has been so good. Always a 1,000-yard receiver, even dating back to a rookie, with abysmal quarterback play. I mean, he had Zach Wilson throwing him the ball. He had the corpse of Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball. When Aaron Rodgers made it 4 snaps into a season, and look at the quarterbacks that were taking snaps after he was done, Garrett Wilson was still a 1,000-yard receiver. That's going to be very big for Arian Smith. And he's a player that I think might be a better NFL player than what you would see in a box score or in a fantasy lineup. He's not going to be consistent, I don't think. But if he takes the top off a defense 5 times a game so that something underneath opens up and you get a conversion that you wouldn't have otherwise, because they have to respect that speed, or that one time that you throw it to him, he comes down with it and it turns into a 70-yard touchdown. That's something that they haven't necessarily had in years past. And I think that's something that can be very useful. And like I said, in a wide open receiver room and a new offense that's going to look for guys that can make plays. We talk about Garrett Wilson. We talk about Mason Taylor, guys that can be incredibly consistent as this run game tries to dominate opponents. Having somebody like that to take those shots just at any point in time, you never know when they're coming, but just let him streak down the field, and if he beats the safety deep, like you said, good luck stopping him, good luck catching him, because he's gone as soon as he catches that ball. So I like the inclusion. I figured you would as well. But the biggest strength of this team is going to be that run game. It's going to be the defense. I think you look for the combination of Braylon Allen and Brees Hall to be a very productive duo, especially behind the offensive line. And we talk about Armand Bimbu coming in and everything like that. This is something that they are going to try to control games, and they should be very good at it. Don't know how many wins it's going to translate to, but they're going to play a very safe brand of football with a sprinkle of excitement, taking those shots to an Arian Smith or to a Garrett Wilson. And I think the Jets are going to be at least a more entertaining team to watch this year than maybe in years past. It's all going to come down to Justin Fields. Can he have a Geno Smith style impact? Geno Smith was not viewed when he was the Jets quarterback as being that franchise guy, but you look at what he was for Seattle, you look at what he represents for Las Vegas this year. Can Justin Fields have that same career trajectory with a fresh start here in the New York Jets? That's going to be the big telltale for New York this year, is what Justin Fields does for this team. Is it good or is it bad? That's going to determine how far they get, because we've talked about it a number of times throughout these videos. The quarterback class next year is a good one. Yep. And if Lenoris Sellers is sitting there for the Jets, and I have them going 6-11 this year and still finishing fourth in this division behind the Dolphins, behind the Patriots, and certainly behind the Bills. But if they're picking high and somebody like Lenoris Sellers is there, why not draft him, sit him behind Justin Fields, because you do have that second year of Justin Fields on this contract. Let Fields start, let Sellers be brought up behind him, and you're ready to make that switch. You go from Cousins to Penix. I mean, you make that same call, let's throw the rookie out there, or you let Fields be the starter this year and then let Sellers start as a sophomore. But I think it's one of those things that Fields is not set in stone as a long-term starter. We saw 4 years, $100 million+ deals given out to players, and Justin Fields was not one of them. $20 million a year is not a lot for a quarterback in 2025. He's going to have to earn his spot on this team, but it's possible that it happens. I just want to know how you kind of predict them to be this year and how far you think they could go if Fields pans out.
So I'm kind of wide open. Fields, I think a lot of people lose sight of the fact that the kid has wheels. I mean, he can run. He can, we saw it with Daniels last year with the Commanders, and I know you're really high on him and you love that style of quarterback. Fields could be that style. He just hasn't been on a good team. He hasn't been where he can showcase all of his talent. So I think, if he can showcase his wheels, take those deep shots, he's fairly accurate, has good wide receivers, he needs to go ahead and start praying to the football gods that Arian Smith grows some hands, or at least find some stickum, because if he gets that, he's going to be really good. And so the Jets are probably the hardest. I was kind of being a little tongue-in-cheek at the beginning of this video saying they're going to be terrible, but I really don't think they are. Overall, if I'm like you, if Justin Fields has the year that I think he can have, and he's the quarterback that I think he could be, no, I think they could absolutely take over that second spot and have a 9-game win year. Maybe even a 10, that might be stretching it. But with it being so unknown and Justin Fields, he hasn't really proven himself. I'm just kind of high on him for no apparent reason. Maybe it's because I saw him play in high school, because he is a Georgia kid. He did come to my hometown once upon a time, and, Rome kind of ate him up, but we're not going to get into that. But I do think he's a good quarterback. I think he's got potential. But if he doesn't, if he just is what everybody thinks he is, I could see him in that 5 or 6 game win and them being fourth. So they could be as high as second, as low as fourth. I don't ever see them beating the Bills. That's just, they're not going to be that good. So, but I do think they could come in second, earn a wild card spot in the playoffs. Maybe, we'll see as the year goes along, and hopefully I don't look bad by saying Phil's got potential. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where we think that there could be a low floor for this team, but we also don't know where the ceiling is. This team could click and be the greatest show on turf. Obviously, I'm not predicting it to happen, but we've said it multiple times. Defense wins championship. This was the third ranked defense last year, and they've kept a lot of their strengths. They've supplemented the guys that have left. They continue to invest on this team on both sides of the ball. So if their offense can approach a top 15 unit, if their run game can be as good as what you want it to be, with as good as this defense is and the takeaways that they generate, this could be a winning team. It's just a matter of how it comes together, and I think how good this offense can be this year. And I guess I'm just not as bullish on it as what other people might be, which is why I have them projected at 6 wins. And I've already kind of talked about it, so I don't want to rehash it too much, but that bleeds into fantasy. It's very much there's only a couple of guys. It's Justin Fields if you like that running quarterback. If you're not in a 6-point passing touchdown league and those rushing quarterbacks really get pumped up, Fields is definitely a capable starter for fantasy. But it's Breece Hall if he has a bounce back year, and obviously the main name is Garrett Wilson. I just don't see anybody else on this team mattering for fantasy, and maybe not even mattering in real life football. They're going to have to get more talent before I can take them serious as a threat to be able to compete with what I think New England can be this year and what the Bills already are.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I don't know that I would pick up Justin Fields. I mean, obviously, if I got into a situation that I had to, I would for sure. But he wouldn't be somebody I'm after to get because of the unknown. I am high on the kid. I do want him to have a really good year. The Jets fans, I love them. They're great, but I can't take their quarterback just because I'm high on him because he's from Georgia. So yeah, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, that's my two guys. If I'm going to pick somebody up, that's it. So I know it's kind of lackluster on my fantasy, but that's kind of what it is.
Well, the Jets have been a lackluster team, so nobody should really expect anything else. But go ahead and take us out, Brian. Let's end this one, and we'll be back tomorrow for a new one.
Absolutely, guys. This has been the Jets video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Maybe we had some good notes. Maybe we had some bad notes. Hopefully you don't blister us too bad in the comments. But if nothing else, subscribe and give us a little bit of love with a like. But other than that, we're going to get into the next video, and we will see you guys next time.